Thank you for tuning in to 26 Sports. It's your host, Mike Rether. And again, we got another great and special episode. As tonight we have the legendary trainer, former world champion as well, the one and only Robert Garcia. How you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming on, man. It's a long time coming. Been wanting to have you on for a while, so I'm excited to have you on.
Thanks.
And let's get to it, man. I've had a lot of questions from a lot of people once I told them you're coming on. First, man, how you feeling, man? Just how's it going? You know, I know you've had a little bit of a break since Bam fought. How you feeling? Because I know your schedule's about to pick right back up.
Well, we came back right after Bam's fight because we had to get back to work because we've had Jose Ramirez in camp for about 2 months already, and three other guys on his undercard. So in 2 weeks from today, we'll be pretty busy again with Jose Ramirez against Pedraza, and like I said, three on the undercard. So we'll be busy again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I know I'm from Fresno, so I've been at almost all of his fights. Seen you at a lot of the fights with Jose and his opponent Pedraza. That's a tough fight. A lot of people that I've talked to have told me they didn't expect him to come back with someone like that. What were you guys' conversations in getting that fight, and what do you guys see in Pedraza that could be a challenge and that you guys could use to your advantage as well?
You know what? Pedraza is a challenge. Definitely not just an opponent. He's a guy that's been doing so good at 140 lately.
Yeah.
He's had some great wins, but we know Jose. And coming up, especially coming off a loss, Jose was not going to allow us to come back and pick two or three. I don't want to say easy because nothing's easy in boxing, but opponents that we could feel very comfortable with. Jose was never going to allow us to. Jose is one of those fighters, persons that wants to show what he's worth. If he's getting paid, he's going to show the fans a real fight. That's just the way he is. He's definitely not going to allow us to pick an easier fight on his first fight after a loss because his mentality is if I'm still that good, I could beat anybody at 140. Things didn't go his way against Josh Taylor, but it was still a very close fight.
Yeah.
The fight was 6 rounds to 6.
Yeah.
If you look at the scorecards, it was 6 rounds to 6. The knockdowns is what made the difference. So we just couldn't. We were not going to be allowed to bring Jose in against an opponent that was just going to be an easier fight. He was
Yeah.
he was not going to allow that.
Yeah, and I know for the fans here in the Central Valley, they know that. They know what type of fighter he is, what type of person he is. And I knew as well with the training he puts in and also being in camp with you, I feel like you probably felt the same way. There was no way you were going to let him come back in with a lighter touch. We won't say, a bum or something like that, with like a lighter touch that you would expect to win. So I knew you guys weren't
Of
going to come
course.
back with something like that.
And you know what? And after a loss, obviously most of the fighters always do that. You lose a
Mm-hmm.
fight, you come back. Like I told you, maybe easy is not a word. It's not the word that I'm supposed to use, but we use that word as an easier fight. And rightfully so. You just lost. You had a great war, but lost your titles. Then come back with an easier fight. But Jose is not one of those guys. A
Yeah.
couple years ago, there in Fresno, he was gonna fight, and his opponent got sick the day
The,
of the weigh-in,
yeah, I remember that.
couldn't make weight. So top rank Brad Goodman right away they brought in a replacement. It was a guy from LA, but his record was like 13-6. And we told Jose, look, Jose, we still found a fight for you. You're still gonna fight. And Jose's like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna fool my fans that are paying top dollars to come and see me perform against somebody like that. I'd rather not fight, and he didn't fight
Yeah.
because even though there was already a replacement, there was already somebody willing to step in, but it was one of those records, that it doesn't look good on paper, and Jose rather not fight. He says, no, I'm not gonna fight. My fans are here to see me put in a good fight, and that's what I'm here to do. So I'd rather not fight, and he didn't fight.
Yeah, that was gonna be his first defense, right? I believe it was Danny O'Connor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember they were they sent some pictures of O'Connor where he had passed out in the hotel,
Right.
and yeah, I remember
Waves,
it
stuff
was
like
bad.
that. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they found a replacement, but he said, no, I'm not going to fight somebody like that. I'm not going to do that to my fans. They're here to see me fight, and they're going to see me fight. So he rather wait, and then he fought
Orozco.
Orozco,
Yeah,
right? Like maybe a month later,
yeah,
6 weeks after that. So that's the way Jose is. So coming back after a loss, he wasn't going to allow us to pick an easy fight. He once we mentioned Pedraza, he's like, that's good. Let's get ready for him.
yeah. And it's funny too is when after the fight, I think maybe a couple months later, I was talking to Evan Korn from Top Rank, and I go, "Hey, what's going on with Jose?" And he goes, "Oh, we haven't really talked too much with him." And I go, "You know who's a good fight because it's not a step over, a easy fight." I was like, "It's Pedraza," and he sat there and he texted me back. He goes, "I hadn't even thought about that yet." He goes, "That is a good fight, huh?" I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "Because Pedraza's a real legit 140 pound
Yes,
fighter now. He just beat the guy, the undefeated guy he had just beat up.
prospect. Yeah,
Yeah,
a very good prospect.
yeah, and I go,
Hammer hands.
and I go, he just beat him down. I was like, that's a legit fight. I
Yeah.
was like, because Jose's not coming back in easy. And he goes, yeah, you're right. So when the fight got made, I was like, hey, I want my cut, guy. I was like, I don't know if that's what.
That's why Evans never said, "Oh, we haven't even thought about it," because they probably thought, Jose, rightfully so,
Yeah,
was going to come back maybe against a lighter type of opponent, but they just don't know Jose the way we do. Jose is not going to do that.
yeah. Real quick, we got Nancy under Boxing Republic. She said, congratulations on all your success and accomplishment. And she wants to know about your relationship with your father and always having him by your side.
You know what, Nancy? My dad is the one that started everything. Going back, man, 40 plus years work training me and my friends in the trailer park where we grew up in Oxnard. Uh, training all my friends right there. Since we were 5 years old, and to what he accomplished with me becoming world champion, then Fernando Vargas, Mikey doing what he accomplished. Just put it makes me and my dad pretty much one person. We think the same way. Whenever a big fight comes, I sit with him about game plan and what I'm thinking. He's thinking what he wants to say. I've already thought about. So I have him with me. Every day, all day. We have breakfast together every day. We go to the gym together. Dinner together. I'm at my dad's house every day till about 9:30 p.m. and then I drive home, let him go to sleep, and then next day in the morning we are together again. I enjoy every moment with him. He's not getting any younger, and I want to continue doing this for as long as my dad's around. He's still strong enough to help us in the gym if I need him to help me. But yeah, I just love that support.
Yeah, and as me watching from when you were fighting to now, I always remember seeing your dad in the corner. And I mean, honestly, because of how good you were as a fighter, I didn't know if you would have became a trainer. But once you started transitioning into that role, I was like, oh, who better than me and my dad? Always, I know. Eventually, I did see that you guys called him that. We used to call him Big G. And
Yeah.
then they're like, yeah, that's what they really call him. I was like, oh, for reals? They're like, yeah. I was like, oh, we used to call him Big Garcia. So they're like, no, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they really call him. I was like, oh, damn. I was like, that's
You know
what's
what?
up.
All the years when we were kids in the gym, nobody called him Big G. Everybody called him Garcia, Senor Garcia.
Mm,
Respect,
yeah,
Senor Garcia. Everybody always called him, all the kids always called him Senor Garcia. But then it was when he started doing training camps with Fernando Vargas and uh, and Rolando Arellano. It we started we were things that we were talking that we didn't really want him to understand. Sometimes in camps,
yeah,
you do stuff that maybe you don't want the head coach to find out. So to mention his name, we would say Big G, because he knew if we said Garcia, he
yeah,
knew we were talking about him, or we said Eduardo, obviously Big G, so he wouldn't understand and know that we were talking about him. So that's how now everybody calls him Big G. Guys go to the gym. People, now that I'm in Riverside, I've been in Riverside for about 6 years, and all the parents, everybody comes to gym. and right, Big G, how you doing? So now everybody calls him Big G,
Yeah,
but before it was more like so he doesn't understand and know that we're talking about him.
yeah, yeah. It was funny because we just said it just because we're like, oh, that's the big Garcia, that's the big one because
Yeah,
it was you, your brother, and everybody that we would see. So we're like, oh, Big G. And then
yeah,
I remember when I first started covering the sport, they're like, yeah, that's a big G, and I was like, who? And they're like, Robert Garcia's dad. They call him Big G. And I
yeah,
laughed and I told my dad, I was like, they really call him that. I was like, we're just saying it just to us,
yeah.
but he's like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And another thing she Nancy said is that thank you for bringing RGBA to Texas as well.
You know what? Texas has always been great to us, man. It doesn't matter where in Texas. Mikey has fun in many places in Texas, and in the and by the border, great fans. Corpus Christi, great fans. Dallas, San Antonio. It's always been awesome coming to Texas. It's one of the best states when it comes to boxing. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the fans, we love it. Obviously fighting at home, fighting in LA. When Mikey fought at the Staples a few years ago, uh, man, that feeling with the fans that try holding on to us when we were walking into the ring and telling us how much they love us. That's the best feeling, from people in your hometown in LA. But Texas has always shown us great love, so we appreciate everybody in Texas.
Yeah, and that actually leads me to my next question about when again you're in LA, Southern California, and how they react to you when you've trained certain fighters that aren't from LA, but you go to their hometowns for their fights. Like Jose and fighters like that. How do you feel the reception is for them? And like, do you still get like an amazement when you see the reaction the fans give to those fighters?
You know what? Fighting in Fresno with Jose. My son is the first one that brought it up. Fresno, Central California, everybody in the area, they they are very similar to Texas. They go to support their fighter. They don't go just because it's a big event.
Yeah,
If you're in LA, you have a big fight at the Staples. People want to go because that's an event.
yeah,
That's the place to go. You want to go show off your Rolex, your chains, your shoes, your clothes. That's the way it is. Girls go all dressed up because they want everybody to see what they're
yeah,
wearing, their purses, their body. That's LA. It's Hollywood. But if you go to Texas, you see the real fans. If you go to Central California and Fresno with Jose, my son said it right away. Man, the love that the fans show to Jose when we're walking out into the ring, it's unbelievable. It's real love. Like real like support. Real fans that want to see their champion look good and do good.
yeah. And speaking of that, because like I said, I watched every one of his fights from when he fought at College of Sequoias up there, his first professional fight, to the casino over there in Lemoore, all those
Mm-hmm.
places I had been to all those fights. And I remember the first time he was in the Save Mart Center that I covered it. Um, well, not the first time, but when he had the eliminator against not a roast, the one before he fought Iman, Mike Reed.
Mm-hmm.
When he knocked out Reed, it was the first time that I had been somewhere in my hometown that wasn't a football or basketball game where
Yeah.
things were like shot up into the crowd. Fans were throwing
Right.
their drinks, everything. I was like, what the hell's going on? I was like, oh, like, calm down. But then I was like, man, like to see him go from fighting in front of 2,000 or so people to 15,
Yeah.
16,000, it was crazy. And then, as you mentioned, I've gone to the fights in LA, Carson, things like that. And yeah, it's a good crowd and it's always loud, but I could tell people when you see it from their hometown, it's a difference because the fans really react. So yeah,
No,
I
it's true.
could definitely
Big
say that.
difference. And the feeling, the feeling walking into the ring with the love. I swear, you feel like actually your eyes get watery because you love that feeling. It's true love.
Yeah, and again, you've been experiencing, as you said, 40 years now plus since your dad was training to now. Is there one fight in particular that you can remember, either that you were fighting or that you've trained or just been a part of, where the moment you just had to like sit there and just soak it in?
You know what? Because during my career as a fighter, I never got that moment. Even though I became champion, I never got that moment where it hit me and like man, you were a champion. Not really. You know, I I started boxing at 5 years old, so a lot of times boxing was kind of forced into me by my dad. I'm not arguing that he didn't, that he did anything wrong because I became world champion. But it wasn't like boxing was the main thing I wanted to do. It just so as a boxer, even though I became world champion, it never really hit me. I think my win against Broner with Maidana
Mm-hmm.
was probably the one that showed me, you know, how good I am as a trainer. Even though, with Brian Villoria, nobody believed in him and he still became champion. Brandon Rios, oh, he gets hit too much. He's never going to be a champion. Became champion,
Yeah.
had some great wins. You know what I mean? Those type of, but then came the big fight, Broner, the next Mayweather, and they picked Maidana so Broner could look good and just become a superstar. And the night before, there was so many reporters in the lobby in the hotel that, and I was there, and everybody was telling me, "You ain't got a chance. There's no way. There's no chance at all." Everybody. So I made a lot of bets with so many reporters. Not money, but I don't like to bet money, but just
Like
different,
friend
like
Benz.
you do 50 push-ups after the
Yeah.
fight if I win, or there was one that I said I'm never gonna talk to you, I'm never gonna give you an interview, and I still haven't given him an interview.
Oh
So
wow.
you know what I mean? That type. So when we won that fight, and like I told you, nobody really gave us a chance. That was one that really hit me and said, man, you're the real deal.
Yeah. And man, I'll remember that fight because like I tell a lot of people I know they tell you, oh, you're Mexican, you have to go for Mexican fighters, you have to go for Latinos. I've never been like that. I've been a fan of different fighters of different races.
Yeah,
So with that one, like I told people, I'm Mexican. I didn't have a horse in the race. My Donna's
right.
Argentino, Broner is black. I mean, technically, I really don't care. I just wanted to see a good fight. But I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think Maidana was gonna do as good as he did early. But
Exactly.
once he knocked down Broner, I was like, oh man, this is it. And I remember I told people, if you notice, there's little things that he picked up, and as you said, as how good of a trainer you are, that little left hook that he threw that knocked him down, he set
Right.
it up by going to the body and then bring it over the top. And I
You know,
remember, like again, my dad is the one that got me into boxing since I was a kid. He told me there's going to be a lot of fighters that are going to go to Robert Garcia now because of what he just did. And I remember from then on out, man, your gyms are always packed and there's always
you know
fighters there.
what?
But
It is pretty interesting how boxing works. You get a really good win, and then you start getting a lot of phone calls. There is that moment also when maybe you lose a couple of fights and you hear nothing but negative things.
yeah,
But that's just the way boxing is, man, and that's the way I guess any sport. If people are passionate about the sport, maybe they feel the same way about maybe a football coach, a soccer coach. But in boxing, it's probably harder in boxing
yeah,
because you lose one fight and you ain't good. Everybody, you suck. But this last couple of weeks when Bam became champion and looked the way he did, man, I got so many calls, man, from so many people, so many interests in working with us. It's pretty funny. It's
yeah,
pretty funny because last year nobody was calling me because Mikey lost, Jose Ramirez lost, so those are my two biggest names, and they both lost, and I lost Virgil Ortiz, who moved on to go somewhere else. So I wasn't getting phone calls, but now Bam gets that beautiful win, beautiful performance, and I
yeah,
started getting calls again.
yeah. And speaking of that fight by Bam, man, that was amazing. Honestly, like I seen him when he fought here in Fresno back in October, and I remember like watching him on TV. I was like, man, this kid legit. But in person, I was like, damn, he's smooth. Like he's just so quick, and it's crazy. And my lady was the photographer, so she took some of those pictures, and she was like, I would go to take a picture, and he would slide out the way, and she's like, "Oh, damn it! Like I got him, but it's not where I had him half a
Yeah,
second ago." But I when they announced the change in fights, I was like, "Okay, I think he's gonna win." And people are like, "Oh, that's a big difference. 7 pounds, but Quadras is natural. He's already big." I'm like, "But
right.
Bam is that dude. Like Bam is that good." So
You know what? That's how we started with Bam. Look, his older brother, Joshua Franco. Coming off the amateurs, I had a really hard time to get him a contract with any promoter. Golden Boy did sign him,
yeah,
but nobody wanted him. So at that time, coming off the amateurs, I had Hector Tanajara, uh, Jonathan Navarro, and Genaro Gomez, and there was a lot of interest in all three, but not Franco. Like because of the weight division,
yeah,
not because he's not a good fighter. He's very talented also, but his weight division, there's not too much interest in the lighter weight divisions, as you know, and everybody in
yep,
boxing knows. There's not a lot of interest. TV's not very interested, and promoters are not very interested. Matchmakers, managers, there's not a lot of money, so that's why a lot of people don't find any interest. But I brought in Josh to Golden Boy, and yeah, they wanted to sign all three, but Josh, I said no, it's got to be all four. And there was Oscar De La Hoya himself that told me, so if we agree to all four, do we have a deal right now without you having to go anywhere else? And we shook hands and said yes. So they took him over, and look, now he's a world
yep,
champion. His little brother at 17, I knew there was not going to be any interest in him because of the weight division. He's actually smaller than
yeah,
than Josh. He's one weight. So I called Mr. Honda, who I fought for. My first three professional fights were in Japan, and they were for taking promotions, Mr. Honda.
yeah,
So I called Mr. Honda. I said, Mr. Honda, we have a really good relationship, really good friendship. I have this little kid. I think he could be one of those special kids. So he's like, okay, I'll help you out with him. So he started buying fights in Mexico, in Tijuana, wherever we could put him in, and just little by little started building up. He fought on PBC a couple times.
yeah,
They all thought he was great, but never showed much interest in signing him. He fought for Top Rank during the pandemic.
mm-hmm.
He had two fights in Top Rank, looked really good, and everybody told me how good he was, but still didn't show me any interest. They didn't show me a contract or anything. I also talked to Golden Boy because Golden Boy has a champion at 108 from Nicaragua,
Yeah,
and I talked to Ernest Gavion. He talked to Eric Gomez and Robert Diaz, and they said yes, they're interested, but never showed me anything. So finally, Mikey fights in Fresno on the zone,
yeah,
and I told Mikey, please, Bam hasn't fought all year, so I told Mikey, get Bam on that card. Tell Eddie Hearn you need Bam on that card, and Mikey did that. He said, I'm fighting, but Bam has to be on the card, and Eddie Hearn put him on that card. They liked him right away. Told me we got to deal with him. We'll fight him again in beginning of the year, and they did what they promised right before the fight. We made a deal for a contract under Matchroom. So now he signed to Matchroom. Everybody else had an opportunity, but they didn't really show too much interest.
yeah. And with that, when that fight came up for Cuadras, I know he was already on that card. Was it any form of hesitation about letting him take the fight, or was it all right? Let's get it.
You know what? Bam was supposed to fight for the title in October on
Mm-hmm.
Mikey's card. He was scheduled to fight the kid from Mexico, WBA
Yeah,
champion from Mexico, 108 pounder. But a couple weeks before the fight, they told me he had some visa problems or whatever. So they brought in a replacement. So that was, you know, that sucked. That he
yeah,
was getting ready for a title fight, but that didn't happen. But anyways, so we said, that's just the way boxing is. Your time will come. We didn't really expect it to come this soon, this
yep,
fast. So we're already ready. They tell me he's fighting February 5th. He's ready. He already has an opponent. The fight's not going to be at 115. The fight's actually going to be at 110 because he fights at 108. But if it's not a title fight, so we agreed because of the opponent. The opponent couldn't make 108. So I told him, all right, we'll do 110 just to get the fight. So we're getting ready for 110. And then 5 days before the fight, Kevin Rooney calls me and says, is Bam crazy enough to move up 2 divisions to fight Cuadras? And I asked what happened to his opponent. He's like, he got sick, so he's not going to fight. And I said, make the fight happen. He's like, and then Kevin Rooney told me, don't you first have to talk to Bam and ask him? I said, no, I don't. Get that fight. Make it happen because I know Bam's going to say yes. So he says, are you sure, coach? I said, yes, please make it happen. So he went on to try to make it happen. I called Bam's dad. I didn't go straight to Bam. I called the dad. I wanted the dad to give him the news. I said, tell Bam he's fighting Cuadras for the WBC title. The dad calls him and tells him, never did he ask any questions. He just said, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, when they said that, I remember I texted Josh, and I was like, bro, your brother's crazy, but I think he's going to win. And he's like, yeah, he's ready. But I was like, damn, like, the way, when you think about, oh, you're going to fight, late replacement on a title, most of the time it's going to be someone that's not of Cuadras' skill and power level. So that's why everybody's like, man, that's going to be a tough one. Like, the guy you're going to fight as a replacement is a legit heavy-handed.
No, and we knew it was, going to be tough. It was tough.
Yeah.
Bam himself said it after the fight. Man, that was tough. I'm tired. My body's tired. Sore. He did say it. Even though he went all 12 rounds, he looked good until the last second of the fight. But then after, when his body cooled down, he's like, man, I'm tired. He was tired because Cuadras has experience.
Yeah.
He had never been in 12 rounds. The most he had been was 8 rounds. So all that was something very different for him, especially against somebody so experienced. But I think that fight taught him so much. I think that fight's going to make him much, much better. I don't want to say he's ready for anybody at 115 because his brother's still at 115. Yeah. So, there's, I can't say he's the best at 115. I don't want to say he wants to fight everybody at 115 because I'd rather, WBA already announced that Gallo Estrada has to fight Josh. So I'm happy they made that decision because Eddie Hearn was already talking about Gallo Estrada fighting Bam in San Antonio. I'd rather have Josh fight Gallo Estrada. Josh is bigger, stronger, and he's a solid 115 pounder. If I could get an opportunity at 108 for Bam, I'll go down to 108 so Bam could pick up a title there.
Yeah, and again, like you said, he was supposed to fight for a title at 108 in October. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, regardless though, how is that though, having 2 world champion brothers in your stable? Like, how does that just resonate with you and when you just really sit down and think about it?
They're both very talented and very dedicated, but it's just not one of those, it's not one of those situations where it can be possible that 2 brothers at the same time and then the same weight division. It makes it a little bit better. Bam is like 3 or 4 years younger, so it's like they're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be going on, especially at the same weight division. But it is. They are, and we just got to go with the moment, enjoy it. Both of them. It's going to help both of them in their careers. So the bigger fights are coming now. They could both even challenge themselves. Because even though they're brothers and they love each other and they support each other, they got to challenge themselves because Josh now sees Bam. He's seen him become a superstar. Yeah. Everybody's talking about him, his performance, this, that, whatever. Now Josh can't fall behind. Yeah. He's got to go out and do the same against Gallo when he fights Gallo. Won't be an easy fight either. No. But he's got to go out there and do what his brother did against Cuadras. He doesn't want to fall behind. So I think that helps both of them become even better.
It's 2 brothers, world champions in the same weight division. It's like, oh, what did you do? Well, I beat him like this. How did you beat him? Oh, okay, well, now I got to go out there and do this.
So that's going to help Josh have a better performance against Gallo Estrada.
So has there been any discussions yet about Gallo and Josh for that fight?
You know what? We had that discussion this morning, and they've told us they're looking for the beginning of the next quarter, which will be sometime in May.
Okay.
So Josh is already in camp, and they told me that they are trying to see if they could make the fight in San Antonio, Texas, with Bam on the undercard. Bam being the co-main event. So if they are able to put that show together in San Antonio, it's going to be a huge show in San Antonio. both brothers defending their titles, and obviously Josh against Gallo Estrada,
Yeah.
who is a big name, pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world. So it'll be big. It'll be big. Hopefully they can make that happen. I know the zone. They are all the promoters. They have a budget, and they divide them into 4 quarters. So the first quarter is already taken. So they said it'll be going into the second quarter. So we're hoping that sometime in May, early June, we could get that fight going.
And if that's how it goes down, that's a big month of May for the zone. Because if the rumors are true, Canelo is May 7th, and then either the week after or maybe the end of the month is Franco and Estrada. That's a big time get for the month of May right there. That's big. Um,
It would be unbelievable. It would be great.
yeah, that'd be crazy. Speaking of that, for Josh, as you said, San Antonio for both of them. A lot of the times that I've talked to him, I've always mentioned, do you want to fight at home? And he's always like, he's kind of like tried to play it off, but I could see in his head he would love to have a fight at home because he says like, oh yeah, it'd be cool, but I'm down to fight anywhere. I'm like, I could see it though. I could see it would mean so much to you. So you've been,
Right.
as we mentioned about fighters being at home. How much do you think it would mean for Josh to have that reception, and then not just him, his brother as well?
You know what? Now having his brother on the undercard and him fighting somebody like Gallo Estrada, it's gonna be a great crowd. You already know it. You know that it's gonna be it will be a great card. So I think that's what some fighters might be afraid of, going to their
Mm-hmm.
hometown and not getting the crowd that they expect. But going against Gallo Estrada, who is a big name in boxing, and his little brother on the undercard, on the co-main event, I think it would be a huge crowd. So he'll feel so positive, so comfortable walking into the ring that he'll have maybe his performance of a lifetime. You know what I mean? Because that really motivate him. I think there's sometimes that doubt of, man, is the crowd gonna show up? Are the fans gonna show up to see me fight? So they might have that question, and that's probably the doubt that some fighters might have. Maybe Josh had that, but now against Gallo Estrada, it's definitely gonna be a good crowd.
Definitely, man. Nancy, she's from Texas, so she's over here in love right now that that fight would be going down there. Real quick, one other question that a friend had. He wants to know, to get into the RGBA, camp, well, not camp, but in San Antonio, is there anything special that he has to do, or can he just show up to the gym and start to train?
You know what? The gym in San Antonio is open to the public. There's nothing you have to do to show up. I don't even have the address, man. I know how to get there, but I don't even have the address. But yeah, it's open to the public. I just wanted to have something there. For the fighters that I already have. Tanahara is the one running it, and have kids show up. The way the program I had in Oxnard, couple hundred kids every day. They're not in the streets. I know Oxnard has quite a lot of the gangs,
Yeah,
drugs and gangs. So San Antonio could have the same. So that was the main idea. Why I decided to do it. Even though I just train here in Riverside with me, but that was the idea. To get some kids off the streets and hopefully could change their lives. And that's what it's for. So it's open to the public.
yeah, and you do a great job, man. I know you have one out here as well in Selma, where they
Yes.
have that gym. So yeah, it's a good thing, man. I tell people all the time, if you have kids, get them into something like this, boxing, even if it's MMA,
Exactly.
whatever it is, give them something to do to stay away from all that stuff on the outside. And knowing that
No,
you've
that's
opened
true.
gyms is
In
great.
other sports, soccer, baseball,
Uh,
football, whatever it is, it keeps them busy after school. They have a program, they have something to do. They're looking forward to something. They're looking forward to compete and win and perform. And they have teammates.
yeah,
Boxing is a sport where you're one on one, but your whole team supports
yeah,
you. Everybody's there. The gym. Every gym you go to, everybody's friendly. Boxing is even though it's fighting, but some parents might think, oh, they're gonna teach my son to be violent. No, it actually does the
yeah.
opposite. It teaches the kid manners, how to respect other people. Man, I've gone through so many kids in boxing since I was in Oxnard that the parents would come up to me, and if it wasn't for boxing, my kid wouldn't have graduated high school. You know, we've had so many kids going to college after high school because they were doing boxing, and that kept them out of the streets, out of problems, out of gangs, and focus in school. You know, it always helped them in their grades. So
Yeah,
boxing is a great sport to have kids go, and it just teaches them discipline and teaches them to be better.
exactly. And then a lot of the things like how nowadays we see more about mental health and things that stress you out. While boxing is a place where you could, let that out on a punching bag, speed bag, whatever. You're letting your frustration out, and that helps you because you're not hurting anybody. You're not taking it out on anybody. You're just releasing some stress, and then you go home, and yeah, like you said, they're probably like, oh yeah, let me do my homework. Let me do this, and they have no anger built up towards anyone because they're just having fun, pretty much.
No, that's how it is, man. You know, right now here in Riverside, my son and Chepe, you know, they run the amateur program, and they have a lot of kids. The parents come in with them and say, "Look, honestly, I really don't know what to do with my son. Any other sport, they just can't handle them because they're too, full of energy. They want to do this and that, and they don't listen. So they come to boxing and they see that the coach is in front of them telling them what to do, and they follow instructions. So the parents right away they're like, oh wow, he
Yeah,
doesn't do that in soccer, or he doesn't do that because he's always running around. But in boxing, you're in a small ring, so you got to listen. You got to follow instructions, and it's changed them a lot. The parents are happy because it does help.
yeah, definitely. And as you say, it's one on one, so they're getting that one on one attention right then and there. In other
Right.
sports, they'll talk to the whole team as a whole
Yeah.
unit. But here, it's just you because you're the one that's in that ring at that particular time.
Right.
Uh, and I want to bring this up just because I know he'll tell me how come I didn't bring it up. When you mentioned Bronner and Maidana, my friend Ernie Green loves to say that that was not just a great moment in boxing history, but one of the great moments in American history was when Maidana beat Bronner. So I had to mention that
You know
for him.
what? It's one of the very few times that I get a fight, I get a win, and I get calls from promoters that had nothing to do with that fight, managers that have nothing to do with any of the fighters involved in that fight, congratulating me. This happened like 10 years ago, and I still get a lot of people remind man, that was such a great win. It was one of those moments,
Yeah,
that had boxing, changed the way
yeah,
they think. Give the underdog a chance because he could do it, and since then, the only fight that I got that same uh, response from boxing people was Bam's last fight. Bam, not because they didn't think he was going to win, but because the challenge, moving
yeah.
up two divisions against a veteran, with only 14 fights, never been past 8 rounds, 22 years old only. I got so many calls from people in boxing that had nothing to do with the promotion, have nothing to do with that event, but they were still happy for me. The Maidana against Brunner and now Bam against Cuadras. I got a lot of phone calls from just people that wanted to congratulate me because it was a great win.
Yeah, and a lot of fighters that I would see on Twitter, Shakur Stevenson, fighters like that, were like,
Exactly.
"Hey, you see Bam, blah blah blah." But even I spoke with Danny Roman last Thursday, and I told him, "Hey, has there been any fights or fighters that you've watched lately?" And without hesitation, he goes, "That kid Bam Rodriguez, just watch this fight, man. Impressive as hell, jumping up like he was like in awe talking
Right.
about him." So I was like, "Damn, yeah." So when you say you're getting calls, yeah, I definitely believe it because I had fighters telling me, "Hey, you see that kid Bam? Man, that kid's tight, man."
Right.
Like,
No,
so
that's true.
that shows it. Um, Speaking of fighters, and as you said, those two moments. Besides that, was there ever a fight where you're the trainer that you were nervous, where you thought, "Man, this is a legit 50-50 fight," where you weren't 100% sure that your guy was going to win?
Man, you know what? Since the fight was announced and since it was talked about, we never really wanted it, and that was Mikey against Errol Spence. My dad, myself, my son Peter, we always told Mikey, Mikey, why you want to do that? It's like, 'cause I know I want to do it. Mikey just, he's one of those guys that wants to challenge himself, and he says, hey, I got nothing to lose, man. I'm gonna go out there try to beat him. He thought, he really believed he could beat him, but Spence had an answer to everything, and congratulate to him. He had he won a fight, and we lost, and that's it. But that's probably one that we were not too sure about getting that win. There's other fights like going against Pacquiao, with Margarito or with Brandon Rios. It's one of those fights where and also with Mikey, same thing. It's one of those fights where you have very little chance of winning, but it's still such a big event, such a big fight with Margarito had over 50,000 people, Mikey had 47,000, Brandon versus Pacquiao probably like 18,000. So it's just a great event. So nothing to be ashamed of. You're fighting against the best fighters in history. So those just being there, you're already a winner.
Yeah.
So that's the way I like to see it. It's not like, oh man, we ain't got a chance. I want to see it as, man, we already won making it to this fight, getting a fight against Pacquiao, getting a fight against Mayweather, going in there, filling up 47,000 people at the Cowboy Stadium. That's already a winner.
Yeah.
Accomplishing that's already a winner.
Yeah, and a lot of fighters have told me that they're like, their first title shot, it didn't really hit them until they were there, and then they see the people, they see the fans, they see the media, and they're like, man, I really made it to this point. Like, I'm here, and they say that's when I knew I've won. I've gotten away from what was holding me down, and I'm here. So definitely, I agree with you when you say it like that.
Right.
And now, was there a fight where you thought, man, we might lose, and your fighter maybe even surprised you and pulled off the biggest win?
Man, you know what? Not that I thought he could lose, but when Abner Mares came to me, and we started getting ready for
Jesus.
What's his name?
Jesus
Cuellar. There you go. A fighter that I used to train. That I won. I made him a champion. He's one of my champions. And then he was strong. He was hungry.
He was
dedicated. He left me, and then I get Abner, where you don't know how many calls I got when Abner came to me, and people telling me, don't get him. Abner's it's not the same anymore. He's not gonna go nowhere. He's not dedicated anymore. He's doing too many stuff with music and other stuff that people were not taking him serious. But when he came to me, he showed me, that he wanted it again. So they told us about the Cuellar fight, and even though I knew that was going to be such a tough fight, and the odds were against us, and very few people thought we could pull it off, that's one of those fights where I knew I could lose, but in my mind I couldn't lose because I was going in against my former fighter, a fighter that I made him champion. So we prepared, Abner listened. We had great sparring partners. We had a great game plan, things that I told him in the locker room that actually happened during the fight. I told Abner, look, Abner, you're going to box him and you're going to be pretty much slapping him around that he's going to get frustrated, and he's going to come to a point where he's going to call you to stop and fight. And he did that. I don't remember which round it was.
It was
but
towards
I told
the middle.
Him,
Yes,
I told him when he does that, you tell him you're smarter than him. You're too smart. And he listened. That was so funny because Abner listened. When Cuellar called him to stop and fight, Abner tapped his head and says, I'm too smart for you. Yeah. Then he even dropped him in the 11th round.
Yeah.
So to me, that's personally one of my best feelings, because I don't think there was a reason for Cuellar to move on and go somewhere else, and then we go in there against Freddie Roach, which was also a big challenge for me. Freddie Roach train him for that fight. I'm coming in with the underdog, with the fighter that nobody believes has a chance, and we got there and performed the way he did. There was so many reports, so many people in the press conference telling me might not be the fight of the year because you clearly won, but it definitely has to be game plan of the year
Yeah.
because we came out with a good game plan.
Yeah, because when he knocked him down, I remember seeing he was hurt, obviously, but I seen frustration in his face. Like, damn, he really just beat me down. Like, because I remember
Yeah.
he fell back and he looks up, and I could just see it in his face. Like,
Right. I'm telling you, nobody expected that.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was going to be a knockout win for Cuellar because he hit hard. I trained him. He had power. But I knew that we had to box him. We had to fight him smart. And they did tell me, that was game plan of the year because that was a perfect game plan. And I could come up with a game plan, but if the fighter doesn't do it,
Yep.
then it ain't going to work. The good thing is that Abner did exactly what I told him to do.
Yeah, exactly. And now, as a trainer, I don't mean it to like say you're gonna diss the person, but is there a specific trainer or trainers that you love to go against because you know you're gonna have to be at your best as well?
Not really, man. You know why? Because in this sport, we're all in the same. We continue. I started in like 2003, 2004 with my young fighters in Oxnard, Brandon Rios. I brought in Victor Ortiz at I think 2004, but their careers are done already. I continue. Freddie Roach still active. Joe Diaz. You name them. Joe Goosen just got Ryan Garcia. So we all have to like know that fighters come, go, their careers end. We continue doing it. So we got to help, support each other. So it's not like I have one challenge that I want to fight against because I really dislike or anything. I do love the challenge, especially going against somebody like Freddie Roach and beating him. Yes, of course. I would love to go be face to face against Eddie Reynoso right now. Eddie Reynoso is a trainer right now. He's a man. I respect him. I admire what he's fucking doing with Canelo and Valdez. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, and going in there and maybe having somebody to beat one of his fighters. Yes, it would be great, but not because I dislike or I just love the challenges. I love challenges.
Yeah, and that's what I meant it as. Not like you're talking down on him, but just the fact of the challenge that damn, he's gonna be there. I have to be at my point too.
Look, right away when you learn about an opponent, about a fight, okay, you're gonna fight so and so day, and oh man, he's trained by Manny Robles, or he's trained by Joel Diaz, or he's trained by in Mexico Nacho. You're in a real fight.
Yeah.
You're gonna there's a challenge. So then we're like, all right, now we gotta even train harder because I don't want to lose to them. Even though we're friends, we could go have a beer after together. I'm good friends with all of them. I don't want to lose to them either.
Yeah.
I've lost some fights to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
Definitely.
We've lost some fights to them. They come to me after the fight and like I'm telling you, we could have a beer together and that I beat you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little challenge between us, between each other, but not to a point where we're hating each other.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've seen after some fights you guys sitting there talking and like laughing, like, and I'm figuring you guys are probably like, hey, you got me, but I'm gonna come back.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna get you.
It's happened a lot. It always happens. Manny Robles, Estrellita. Always telling, I beat you this time, I beat you that time. So that's just the way it is. But it's all good. It's all love and respect to each other.
Definitely. Now I'm gonna ask this one about what's up, Serene? Because you have a lot of great talent in your gym, a lot of stars, a lot of future champions and world champions. But outside of your gym, what are some fighters that you enjoy and are actually a fan of in the sport?
Before I tell you outside of my gym, I want you guys. Bam was one of those kind of secret talented fighters. I have another one that I know fights very similar to Bam, and that's Raymond Murataya.
I've seen him fight, man. Yeah, I seen. Yeah, I seen him in I think first or second fight that I seen him, and then somebody told me that kid's gonna be a champ soon. Like he's got the skills,
Yeah,
and then the
he
more I've seen him
is.
get up, I'm like, oh yeah,
His last fight was on the pay-per-view card that Top Rank just had with was it
Crawford and Porter.
I think so. Yeah, Crawford and Porter.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Coleman. I think we were the first TV fight on pay-per-view.
yeah,
That kid has talent. That kid is
yes.
also very talented. The rest. I have so many that you guys have already seen and already been watching. But I think this kid is going to be one of the real ones, man. Right now that I don't train and that I want to be part of, and I would love to be part of. Nobody in the professional boxing, because there's so many fighters out there that are great, and I could say, man, I would have loved to work with Ryan Garcia instead of Eddie Reynoso. Instead of Eddie Reynoso, they took him to Joe Goosen. Why didn't they bring him to me? No, there's a saying in Spanish, el sol sale para todos. So I'm glad. I'm happy for Ryan. I'm happy for his decision. Joe Goosen is a great trainer. I've known Joe Goosen since I was a little kid. I grew up watching the Ruelas, Michael Nunn, and going to Joe Goosen's gym in Van Nuys since I was a kid. My dad used to take us to train there all the time since I was a kid. So I respect him so much. But there's an amateur kid right now that I'm working. I already got his approval and his dad to go find him something with a promoter, and he's from Bakersfield, Joel Iriarte. Okay. That kid could fight, and he's 6'1", 140 pounds. He's a solid kid, but he's still an amateur. Yeah. Still an amateur. But see, that's what I like the most. That he's just an amateur, and if I start working with him from his pro debut to one day becoming world champion, that's the best feeling I could have. I could tell you, oh man, I would love to work with Canelo. Well, he's already making $50 million a fight. Of course, who wouldn't? Right. Who wouldn't want to be part of Canelo? If he's making $50 million a fight and you're gonna get 10%, who wouldn't? You know what I mean? Yeah. But no, I rather pick that one fighter that's gonna make me work to make him get to that to become a star.
Yeah, and it's gonna be funny that I say this because I've never really told nobody, but you were the first trainer that I seen working with someone that was just coming up to where it really hit me that you guys are really with these fighters from fight one to on. Because it was one of the shows, again, it was in Lemoore at the Palace, and it was, where they fought outside with the seats all out. And I remember it was one of the first ones I went to, and I walked up. I was like, what the hell is Robert Garcia doing here? Is he here as a fan? And I see you walking on with the fighter, and I was like, yo, he's actually here to train. And they're like, yeah, all the fighters are here. Like, that's what they do. And I'm like, he even comes for their second or third fight on the side of the road here, like the casino here. And they're like, yeah, Robert's with everybody. And I was like, damn, it never really resonated with me because, growing up, before I got into the sport, like to where I'm at now, I'm watching HBO, Showtime. You only see the 3 or 4 fights on the card. And that's why I see the guys that are 20-something and 0, 30 and 0, 17 and 0, but a high-end prospect with a manager or a trainer like you. And then I go to these fights, and this dude's off TV. It's not on TV. It's maybe not even on the internet. And you're walking out with them, and I was like, oh, man, okay. They really are out here from fight one. And I think on that card you had 2 or 3 fighters, and I was like, damn, Robert's been here since 4:30, 5 o'clock, and he's going to be done at like 8:30. I was like, man. But you were the first one that I seen.
That's what makes us proud of what we do when we build them from the bottom to one day becoming world champions. That's a great feeling, and it doesn't have a price. Having fighters like I just mentioned Canelo or big names that are already making millions and millions of dollars. Of course, who doesn't want that? I would love to have somebody like Canelo or Mayweather or Pacquiao, but bringing a kid, from pro debut, amateurs to pro debut to becoming world champion, that you can't put a price to that. Starting from, Brian Viloria, I'm telling you, he had already lost his title. So Top Rank, they didn't release him, but they didn't really believe much him. So they brought him to me. He fought at the Alameda Swap Meet in LA at one point where it was pouring rain. So from the trailer locker room trailer that
Yeah.
we were at, we had to carry him because if he walked, his shoes would have got wet. You know, we had to carry him into the ring that had a tent over, so the rain wouldn't land in the ring. It was one of those small telefutura shows
Yeah.
that nobody really cared about, and the
Sullivan
Alameda
Sale.
Swami,
Yeah.
exactly. To then getting a title opportunity and beating this kid from Mexico. He had 11 title defenses, and
And
Cuadras knocked him out in the 11th round to become world champion. See, those are great feelings,
yeah.
that when they bring you somebody that they're already kind of thinking he's done, and then you bring him back. That's also a great feeling.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, bringing them up from the bottom to or just starting out. For a lot of people, as you said, you brought up world champions. Now think for the people that are wondering why wouldn't you want Canelo? Think of how Eddie Reynoso feels. Him
No,
and
I would
Canelo
love I
started.
would love to have I would love to have a Canelo,
Yeah,
but I won't pick Canelo because he already has Eddie.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Eddie, imagine they've been together since Canelo was what 9 years
Yeah,
old, 8 years old.
right.
That's that feeling
So
you're
what I'm
talking
talking
about.
about, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Eddie with Canelo. I see pictures of them when they were young. They were
Yeah,
both very young. Canelo was 13, 15, whatever, and now look at where they're at. Man, you got to be happy for them, man. That's awesome, and yeah, he's making those big purses, and but he also got them from the beginning, since the amateurs to the pros.
yeah.
So yeah, so what I'm saying is exactly what Canelo and Eddie are going through right now.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point, as you said, that's a feeling that they have that at some point they probably sat there and they're like, man, remember when we fought in the little, I mean, maybe in the
Right.
bull ring in Guadalajara to sitting on top of the world in Texas for Billy Joe Saunders and in Vegas, all those fights.
Exactly. It's priceless, bro. And for them to have made it so far, and the biggest paydays in boxing, man, they fuck, I see so much hate on social media for them because whatever it is, why wouldn't people be happy for a kid that started from zero? Trainer, I know Eddie and his dad also struggled. They
Yeah,
struggled. They've had world champions before, but never had any big paydays. Never had any $1 million paydays. So now that they made it, they still they get a lot of hate. Man, I gotta be happy for them.
yeah. And you know what though? That's what every fighter, honestly, because as you mentioned Mayweather earlier, when you look back, I mean, Mayweather's beginning with stuff that happened with his dad, how
Hmm.
Mayweather had talked about sleeping on the floor as a kid, to where
Yeah,
he got to. It's like, why would you hate that? He made
can't
it to
hate
the
on that.
highest point. Man,
Yeah,
I always tell people, like, even when they brought up the Canelo and Jake Paul fight, oh, they'll fight him. And I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't pay for it. But to Canelo, hey, go get your money because you don't know
go
when
get
your career's going to end. You might get
exactly,
hurt in one of these fights or something could happen and that's it. If you could go pull 100 million on a fight, go do it. I don't care.
exactly.
Like,
Why not?
yeah, I'm not gonna ever hate on any person going to get the most money they can. Get it, because
Right, right.
at the end of the day, there's no life insurance in boxing, so
True.
it's done. It's done. But yeah, definitely that's why. When you mentioned that, that's all I was thinking was, yeah. So you're saying the stuff that I've thought in my head before, so that's cool. Um, Couple more questions real quick before I let you go, man. So just because I seen you talk about this, the videos out there, when you got that call, the accidental call from Lou DiBella about Ryan Garcia, man, what was going through your mind as he's telling you all this stuff? And then at any point did you say, "Hey, this is Robert Garcia, not Roberto Diaz"?
You know what? The first call I got from Lou DiBella, I never told him it wasn't Robert Diaz. I just listened, but at first I was confused because right away he told me, he mentioned Ryan Garcia, and I'm like, but I have nothing to do with Ryan Garcia. I didn't think he was trying to. I didn't think he was. I didn't think he was trying to make a fight or anything. I think I just thought he thought I trained him for some reason, so I just played it off. But then when he started going into more business, possible fights and somebody else that he has for Ryan, I just listened. I didn't, never told him it's not me, until the second call I got a few days later, and that's because he was on the phone with somebody else. It was a three-way call, whatever they call those, somebody else, and he's like, "Hey, Robert, I got, so and so. I'm not gonna say who. I got so and so on the phone," and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" That person knew who I was. He knew it wasn't Robert Diaz, so he's like, what up? You're not Robert Diaz, you're Robert Garcia. I'm like, yeah, you guys are calling me. Oh, sorry, Robert. That's when, but, the first time I didn't say anything, and I'm not going to say what he told me, obviously, because he's a good friend of mine. But, he did confuse me. He thought he called Robert Diaz. But, hey, we all make mistakes. And look, now Ryan's fighting. He's got a date. He's fighting one of Lou DeBen's fighters. So that's, pretty much what he told me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before the fight was announced, that's what he told me. I have somebody that could fight Ryan Garcia, and now his fighter is fighting Ryan Garcia. So that's pretty much how the conversation went.
Yeah. And then just as a person involved in boxing, I want to ask you this question about it. When you look at the situation with Kambosos, Lomachenko, and Haney, I know a lot of people on social media, and I feel that way a little bit. I feel like Haney's being slighted a little bit in this situation. Lomachenko, yeah, he's got the record, the resume, and all the accolades, but he still lost.
Well, what? Honestly, let me. He doesn't have the record because he has two losses.
Yeah.
He lost to Salido, who he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
And he lost to Teofimo, which he wasn't supposed to. So honestly, he's one of my favorite fighters. Very talented. Bam fights very similar to him. So I've always said he's one of my favorite. Pound for pound, he is one of my favorite fighters. But if you want, if you want to compare or something, he lost 2 fights that he should have won.
Yeah.
So that's his bad.
So
but
do you feel like Haney's getting a little slighted in this situation, getting passed over for the fight? Because I feel like he earned it in my head a little bit.
I do feel that he earned it too, but he did it to himself, and this is why. Look, he's acting or negotiating like if it was going to be his last fight, or like he's going to lose. He wants the most money out there for him. Acting like Kambosos has the right to get as much money as he can because he's a champion. He's got the belts. You want them, you come and get them. And more likely, Kambosos will lose to both Haney and Loma. I think they both beat him.
Yeah.
I like Lou DeBella. I love Peter Khan, who manages Kambosos, and his trainer Centeno. I love them. They're great people. But I believe both Haney and Loma beat him? Yes, I do. Yeah. So yes, get as much money as you can because you might lose. More likely, you're gonna lose titles. So get as much money as you can. So Haney's trying to negotiate also a huge purse for him. No, do what Loma did. Get a cut on your purse to get that opportunity. So you could have Kambosos happy. You please Kambosos, but you know you're gonna pick up the titles. Then you're in hand. You're in control. Now you got the belts. Now you could say, okay, who wants them? Now I'm charging what I want. Right as soon as he seen that Kambosos was leaning towards Loma.
Yeah.
What did he tweet? I'll take whatever deal Loma took. Well, that's already too late for you, Haney. You should have thought the future, winning those belts, and right now give most of the money to Kambosos because he earned it. He deserves it. Get paid less, but Haney didn't want to get paid less. He wants to get paid more to fight Kambosos. No, you're picking up those titles, so get less money, make them happy. But winning those titles is gonna bring you insane money.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's I think what a lot of people have is that
I think he did it to himself.
Yeah, but they do feel that he's more deserving of the shot.
Yeah,
he just got And that's why they said maybe it's more of the people around him that messed it up, because I honestly feel that he would have done whatever to get that fight. Just like, I mean, you were there in Fresno when him and Teofimo got into it right there. He was like, yo, let's do it right now, or we could do it whenever. And
no, he'll fight. He'll fight. But I think negotiating was the mistake where, Kambosos needs to make the most money out there. So let him have the most. You take a cut in your payday because you're going to beat him. Yeah. Then you're going to bring the titles. You're undisputed now. You're undisputed. You call the shots. So that's what he had to do. He didn't. Loma did. And now, from what I understand, it looks like Loma's the one that's going to get that fight. Yeah. Because he took a big cut.
And now, speaking of that, let's say Loma does win. Do you think he's going to give Haney that shot, or do you think he's going to possibly avoid it?
I think being that they fight different promotions, it's very hard to make those fights, man. Yeah. Loma, I'm pretty sure Loma told Top Rank, you guys better, I want that fight. And I don't care if I get paid less, I need you guys to make that fight. And Top Rank has to go do it. But if Loma is in control with all the belts, then he's gonna want Haney to come to ESPN, to Top Rank, and fight for them. And I don't think Haney will do that. I really don't think Haney will do that.
But if it's because Haney technically is a free agent, do you think he'll do a one fight thing, or do you think they're going to try to tie him, as you're saying, like tie him?
Well, I don't think there's any promoter that's going to give a fighter a one-time fight and risk the chance of losing all the belts and taking them somewhere else. I think it'll be a immediate rematch, a tour, just like Joshua Franco against Maloney. Not even close to that caliber of fight, but they told us, we're giving you that title opportunity, but you're giving us 2 fights. So they made a rematch and another fight against somebody else, but it was against the same guy. But they, our deal with Top Rank was opportunity, but there's an immediate rematch, and then after that, you're gonna fight another one of our fighters. So it was a 3-fight deal. So I think something like that, yes, they'll do. Top Rank will do. But there's also so much politics and money involved that it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I would love to see it because it's a very good fight. I think it's a very good fight. It's a technical fight. I don't think it's going to be fight of the year, but it is a very technical fight that I would love to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what's it for me. I've always felt that Haney is technical, but I think he's really skilled and is actually that good as a fighter that I think he could probably beat everybody at 135.
Yeah, no, he's very good. He's a good fighter.
Yeah. So last one here, just off of normal. You mentioned Tank Davis about fighting Josh Taylor about a year ago. What do you see in Tank that that makes you believe he's that good of a fighter as well? Because Josh Taylor obviously is an undisputed champion.
Yeah, Josh Taylor's a great fighter, man. Very talented, and he's undisputed, so we can't disrespect him at all. He's undisputed, so he's the best at 140. We gotta all agree to that. Yep. But I think Tank is very strong. He grew up rough, and he's not afraid to lose. He's not afraid to get hit. I think Tank is a challenge for anybody. I think he's a threat to anybody because not only because he's tough and he grew up with nothing to become what he is now. I think he also has insane power. I've heard from so many people that he hits like a middleweight. So that he always has a chance. I think Taylor is much taller, reach advantage. He would box and outpoint him, but even until the last round, somebody with power always has a shot. Yeah. I think from his last performance against
Cruz.
What's his name? Cruz. I picked Josh Taylor because his performance against Cruz wasn't one of his best performances. So I think Josh Taylor's height, reach, would probably beat him a decision, but it's still an interesting fight.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's just a lot of people, same way as you talked about hate. There's a lot of hate for Tank Davis, But I remember you were one of the first ones that I ever heard that came out. I was like, no, he's a great fighter. He's skilled. He's strong. And I showed love to him. And a lot of other people were just like, oh yeah, he's cool. But yeah, and you came out and you were like, no,
No,
he's
he's a
good.
great fighter, man. He's a
Yeah.
great fighter. But
So
it will be a tough fight against Josh Taylor. Because Josh is very very good. And right now before you asked about if I like to challenge myself against any other trainers, well, Josh Taylor's trainer,
Ben Davidson.
they beat us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. Ben Davidson, he's a great person, great coach. But I do have that
Yeah.
that I want that challenge. I want to go in against him. Hopefully, it would be nice to even go against him, on a rematch with Jose Ramirez, but not personal. As in the
Because he
sport.
got you.
He got me. He got me. So I do want that challenge.
Hey,
I would love that challenge.
hey, you know what? I'm gonna tell this story because I was there last year for that fight. I'll never forget when you were talking to us, and then he came up to you before. I think it was either the press conference. Yeah, it was a press conference, and he came up to you and he talked to you. And I forgot what he said to you, and you like looked at him and you're like, okay. And you turned around, and I remember you had this look on your face, like what did he just say? And then we're like, oh, Ben Davidson. You're like, oh, that's his trainer, huh?
Yeah, I
And
didn't
then,
know who that. I didn't know who
yeah,
that.
and you were
Yeah,
like, oh, like I had just seen it in your head, like he just told you something that
right.
like got you. And then after the
Now,
fight
I
ended, I was
know.
like, oh, I know Robert's feeling it.
They're from Europe, and they have, he's done a great job.
Yeah,
After that, now that I know who he is and I followed him, he's a great trainer, man.
yeah,
He just after that he made a featherweight champion.
mm-hmm,
So he has his champions.
yeah,
So he works hard and he does a great job. But there is that little, like we say in Spanish, that espinita,
yeah.
that I want to pull, because I need it. I need it.
You got me, like you got me that
Yeah,
time.
he
Yeah,
got me. He
yeah, and
got
that's
me there.
I remember like I didn't mean to like laugh, but I thought about it. I was like, oh, I know Robert's probably thinking, oh, that little bastard, like he got me. Like I remember just
He
because
got me. Yeah, but
yeah, the way you looked at us and we told you, oh yeah, that's the trainer. You're like, oh, like that's why he came. Oh, okay, like I
I
just seen it
remember
like
that.
hit you, like oh that little dude tried to get in my head,
Right.
and after I
Exactly.
just laughed. But yeah, I remember when I talked to him too, I had asked him, I was like, hey, so what'd you say, Rob? What'd you say to Robert? And he like looked at me and he smiled. He's like, oh no, man, gamesmanship, bro, gamesmanship. And I was like, oh, that okay. So that's why
I
when the
did.
fight ended, I was like, I know it's in
Yeah, he
Robert's
got
head.
us.
Yeah,
They got us, and I would love that rematch. I
yeah.
would love it.
Hey, and if Jose looks really good in this fight, gets the
Exactly.
win, why not? Because there's not really much other challenges at 140. I mean,
Not
Barbosa's
much.
there, good
Yeah,
fighter.
but even
Um,
if he moves up to welterweight, which I've heard, there's no challenge up there for welterweight, especially for Top Rank.
yeah,
They don't have,
Crawford's gone.
Crawford is gone, so I think he might have to stay a few more fights, and I would love a rematch.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, the only other fighters I think 140, Barbosa, Chon Cepeda, Jose,
Yeah,
and Taylor. I mean, those are really the best
right,
four right now. Some are
right.
coming up,
And
but
Teofimo now that he's at 140, Teofimo's at
oh
140
yeah,
now.
yep.
Yeah,
But we're gonna see where he's at. That's my biggest
yeah,
question. Is
exactly.
got to see where he's at going into that fight.
Right.
So, real quick, also Rick V is saying what's up to you. So, man, before we go, man, I want to thank you so much, man. It's a real honor, pleasure to have you on. Hopefully, I get to get you on more times. I know I'll see you all fight week for Jose, but I want to thank you, bro. I mean, I've been following you since as long as I can remember when I was watching boxing as a kid. Like, I know I look older, bro. I'm only 33, but I've been watching you since you were fighting, since you were training
Awesome.
with Fernando Vargas and Brandon Rios,
Right.
bro. That was some of my favorite fights watching when I was in high school. Like I would come
Right.
home, be like, "Oh, we're gonna go out now. Bam Bam's fighting on Saturday, bro. I'm gonna watch Bam Bam." And they're like,
Right.
"Oh, okay." So yeah, man, it's really an honor to see
Awesome.
you here on here with me, bro. I really appreciate it, man.
No, thanks for having me, Mike. I'm available. My fighters are also available. If just let me know. You know how to get a hold of me. So anytime. Let's do it again.
Definitely. So before we go, though, bro, anybody you want to give a shout out to, and let the fans know where they could follow you and where to see your next fights coming up.
You know what? Well, our next fight is gonna be at Safe Mart in Fresno. So
Oh,
besides Jose, I have three more guys on the undercard. I have a heavyweight. That's gonna be on that card. He's like 6'9", Mexican American.
oh
That
yeah.
guy's huge. Yeah, he's 2-0, I'm also going to have Javi Martinez on that card, and we have Hector Tanahara fighting on
Yep.
that card actually. So it's going to be a great night of boxing. Our second show of the year, and I just want to see a big crowd like I always do in Fresno. Nothing but love. Everybody shows Jose the love that they have for him, but at the same time, they show it to me too
Yeah.
because I'm part of Jose and I enjoy it. Every time we go to Central California, there was I'm gonna bring up, it's more northern than central, but San Jose. I went to a fight in San Jose. We're talking maybe 12 years ago, long time ago, but a lot of people showed me a lot of like they thought I was the sureño, a gangster because they were fuck LA,
Yeah.
this is Northern California. But all the other time, not too long ago, I went to Stockton. Love.
Yeah.
Everybody showed me love. I think it was more maybe the shirt that I was wearing that probably got them a little, because I was wearing a shirt that LA Dodgers shirt.
Yeah.
So that's probably what got them heated up.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it to disrespect. I didn't do it to disrespect Northern California. I love California. This is where we're from. But Central California has shown us lots of love. So hopefully we see another full house that day. And my social media is at Garcia Boxing. We do our podcast once a week under Robert Garcia Unfiltered. So that's how how we could stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So if you guys want, turn that on, man. I just watched the one you had talking about the Canelo situation and all that as well.
Right.
Good stuff you guys always do, you and your son. And just real quick, just as you mentioned that about when you went to San Jose, the first time I covered a fight in LA was at Carson at the StubHub, and I remember when I was leaving, I was going to visit family in Oxnard, and shout out to Francisco Salazar. I was in my Raider clothes, and I was gonna switch to a different clothes the next morning. And he goes, "Hey, bro, this is what you can't wear."
Take that to Oxnard.
Yeah, he goes, "This is what you can't wear. This is what you can't put on. Don't put on nothing with this letter, or this letter. Don't do this." And I was like, "Damn, bro." I was like, "We got gangs in Fresno," but he goes, "Nah, man." He goes, "This certain part in Oxnard is this gang. This certain part is this gang. This." And I was like, "Man, I'm gonna just go in a freaking black hoodie then. I guess screw it. Like I don't know what else I could wear."
Wearing your Raiders gear in East Oxnard, you won't survive.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. Because I had on my Raider hat and I had a Raider hoodie. And he goes, "What part of Oxnard are you going through?" And I told him. And he's like, And then I go, "Okay, well, I got this." He goes, "No, don't wear that color either." And I was like, "Well, what can I wear?" He goes, "You can wear all black." He goes, "But just make sure there's no letters, no this, no that." And I was like, like, okay, I guess. So we didn't even end up going by. We had to end up leaving right after the fight that night and drive back to Fresno that same night. So I was like, "Oh, we don't have to worry about it." But when he told me, I was like, "Oh, so now that you mentioned about going to San Jose, we had that too in Stockton when we went to go cover a MMA fight. I was in red, and it was a Giants hat, but it looked like Fresno State. So Northern California, that's norteño, so they thought it was Fresno. And they were like, "Oh, what the hell?" And I was like, "Oh, Giants." They're like, "Oh, okay, we'll let you go." And I was like, "Damn, bro."
Well, it happens, but
Yeah.
what? It's still showing but love. So I'm glad, that boxing has brought us to get to know so many people and have people that actually looking forward to RGBA's next fighter, next world champion. Now we're on our 13th, so people are actually counting to see who's going to be our 15th, who's going to be our 16th, and we got so much talent that, we'll get there. We'll get there. Will. It'll take our time, but we'll get there.
You'll be there. You probably have maybe 2025 by the end of the next couple of years or something. So, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so again, man, thank you so much, brother, for being on. Really appreciate it. When you guys come to Fresno, man, I don't know who's all coming with you guys, but I know you could leave the hotel if you can. Let me know, bro. I'm going to hook you guys up. I told Josh this last time. Hook you guys up with the best tacos or whatever you guys want out here, man. I know all the spots.
All right.
Just let me know. I got you guys.
We're going to do it because we're going to be there all week.
All right, man. Let me know. All right. Well, thank you again, bro, and appreciate it for coming on, man. Thank you.